There are moments in life when everything you thought you understood about your own home just stops making sense. For Michael Patterson, a 34-year-old insurance adjuster living in a quiet suburb outside Portland, Maine, that moment came on a Tuesday morning when he opened his basement door and found a 500-pound black bear sleeping on his old couch. It had been living there for weeks. But let's back up. Because the bear didn't just appear out of nowhere. The signs were there. Michael just didn't know what he was looking at. It started 8 days earlier. Michael came home from work on a Thursday evening, kicked off his shoes, and noticed something odd in the kitchen. His trash can was tipped over. Not violently destroyed, just tipped, like someone had bumped into it. He figured maybe he'd done it himself that morning in a rush. He cleaned it up and forgot about it. The next morning, he found his back door slightly ajar. Not wide open, just unlatched. The kind of thing that makes you question whether you actually locked it the night before. Michael lived alone, had lived in this house for 3 years, and had never once forgotten to lock that door. But memory is a tricky thing. He shrugged it off, locked it again, and went to work. Saturday, things got weirder. He went into his garage to grab a bag of dog food. He had a German shepherd named Rookie, and found the 40-pound bag torn open, kibble scattered everywhere. Rookie was inside the house. The garage door had been closed all night. Michael stood there staring at the mess, trying to piece together a logical explanation. No, mice don't rip through industrial-grade plastic like that. A raccoon? Maybe. But how did it get in? He checked the small window near the ceiling. Closed. Locked. He cleaned up the food, made a mental note to set a trap, and moved on. Sunday night, he heard it. A low, heavy thud from somewhere below the house. Michael was watching TV in the living room when the sound came through the floor. It wasn't loud, but it was deep. The kind of sound that vibrates in your chest. He muted the TV and listened. Nothing. Just the hum of the refrigerator and the wind outside. He turned the volume back up and tried to ignore it. But then it happened again. Thud. This time he got up. He walked to the basement door, hand on the knob, and paused. The house was old, built in the 1980s, and it made noises. Pipes knocked, floors creaked. That's what old houses do. He told himself it was nothing, went back to the couch, and fell asleep with the TV on. Monday morning he found muddy paw prints on his back porch. Big ones, way too big to be Rookie. Michael crouched down and measured one with his hand. It was wider than his palm, with 5 distinct claw marks pressed into the wood. He pulled out his phone and did what anyone would do in 2025. He Googled it. Large paw print identification, Maine. The results came back immediately. Black bear. Michael stared at his phone, then at the porch, then back at his phone. A bear. In his suburban backyard. He'd lived in Maine his whole life. He knew bears existed. He'd seen them on hiking trips, spotted them from his car on rural roads. But this wasn't the wilderness. This was a neighborhood with streetlights and mailboxes and a HOA that sent passive-aggressive emails about lawn maintenance. Bears didn't just wander into places like this. Except, apparently, they did. He called a neighbor, an older guy named Ron, who'd lived on the street for 20 years. Ron laughed. "Oh yeah, we get 'em sometimes. Usually in the fall, looking for food before they hibernate. They'll poke around trash cans, maybe check out a garage if you leave it open. Nothing to worry about. Just make sure your garbage is secure, and they'll move on." Michael felt a little better. He secured his trash, double-checked all his doors and windows, brought Rookie inside earlier than usual. That night he slept fine. Tuesday morning, he woke up to silence. No thuds, no paw prints, no tipped trash cans. He made coffee, checked his phone, and felt like maybe the whole thing was over. The bear had moved on, just like Ron said it would. Then, around 10 a.m., he remembered he'd left a box of old tax documents in the basement that he needed to shred. He opened the basement door, flicked on the light, and started down the wooden steps. The air smelled different. Not bad, exactly. Just earthy, like wet dirt and fur. Michael stopped halfway down the stairs, and that's when he saw it. Stretched out on his old sectional couch, the one he'd been meaning to donate for 2 years, was a fully grown black bear, sound asleep, breathing slow and deep, one massive paw hanging off the cushion like it had just dozed off watching a movie. Michael's brain didn't process it immediately. For a solid 5 seconds, he just stood there staring, trying to reconcile what his eyes were seeing with what was supposed to be possible. A bear. In his basement. On his couch. The bear's chest rose and fell in a steady rhythm. It looked comfortable, peaceful even, like this was exactly where it wanted to be. Michael took one slow step backward. The stair creaked. The bear's ear twitched. Michael froze. The bear didn't wake up. It just shifted slightly, repositioning itself, and let out a long, rumbling exhale that sounded almost like a snore. Michael backed up the rest of the stairs as quietly as possible, closed the basement door, and stood in his kitchen, heart pounding, phone in hand. He called animal control. The dispatcher answered on the second ring. "Animal control, what's your emergency?" "There's a bear in my basement." A pause. "I'm sorry, can you repeat that?" "There is a bear in my basement. A big one. 500 pounds. It's sleeping on my couch." Another pause. "Sir, are you sure it's a bear?" Michael almost laughed. "Yes, I'm sure. It's definitely a bear. Stay upstairs, do not approach the animal, and we'll have someone there within the hour." The animal control officer who showed up was a woman in her 50s named Linda. She'd been doing this job for 23 years and had seen just about everything. But even she seemed mildly impressed. "Well," she said, peering down the basement stairs with a flashlight, "that's a first for this neighborhood." She explained the situation calmly. The bear had likely been scoping out the area for days, found the small basement window, the one Michael had left cracked open for ventilation, and squeezed its way inside looking for a quiet, dark place to settle down for the winter. "They're opportunistic," Linda said. "Your basement probably felt like a perfect den. Cool, quiet, no predators. From the bear's perspective, this is prime real estate." It took 2 more officers, a tranquilizer dart, and a reinforced transport cage to get the bear out. The whole process took about 3 hours. When it was finally over, Michael stood in his driveway, watching the truck drive away with a sedated bear in the back, and felt a strange mix of relief and disbelief. Linda handed him a pamphlet titled, "Living with Wildlife in Maine." "Seal that window," she said, "and maybe check your basement more often." That night, Michael sat on his porch with a beer, staring at the woods beyond his backyard. Rookie sat next to him, tail wagging, completely unbothered. Somewhere out there, a 500-pound bear was waking up in a wildlife relocation area, probably confused about how it ended up there. And Michael was left with a story he'd be telling for the rest of his life. The week his house became a bear's Airbnb,